Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the new epic musical fantasy Wicked, which is based on the stage play, which is based on the Wizard of Oz novel, which was released in 1900, and the film, which was released in 1939. This is a two-part adaptation of the stage play. Yes, you heard me right, two parts. Uh, this film is directed by John Chow, who has directed some very decent films in the past. You know, Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, which came out a couple of years ago. This foray, he's jumping into the land of Oz, and this film is set in the land of Oz, and it follows the story of Elphaba beginning her path to become the Wicked Witch of the West, and her unlikely friendship with her classmate Grindyla, who becomes Grindyla the Good. And this film stars Cynthia Aravillo and Ariana Grande. Let me just start off by saying this film is not my particular run to the theater type film. I wasn't excited for this for a couple of reasons. One, as much as I do like musicals, contrary to belief. I don't run out to see a musical. And the Wizard of Oz tale has been told so much. And in that regard, I'm not a big Wizard of Oz guy. I know it's a classic. I get it. It is perfection in the eyes of cinephiles across the world. I understand that. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's horrible or nothing. It deserves all the praise and accolades that it has received for almost a century. But I'm just not the Wizard of Oz is on. I'm not that guy. And so the whole story of or the backstory of this film in particular, which kind of serves like a prequel, it didn't really pull at my heartstrings, so to speak. But it looked decent, the trailers and whatnot. It looked decent enough for me to say I might check it out. And leading up to it, the closer we got, I kind of was like, then I found out that it's a two-parter, that we're not going to get a resolution at the end of this film. I was like, do we really need a two-part Wicked film? It's kind of, I don't know. I just went into it negative. I'm being completely honest with you. I went into this 100% negative, but I went into it nonetheless. I was curious. And so the curiosity won. I went, sat down and watched this film. And the first 30 minutes of this film, I was deeply regretting going to watch it. I was like, man, I don't understand what's happening right now. Because I know the lore of the Wizard of Oz. I understand that the Wicked Witch of the West was the Wicked Witch. She's the bad guy, So why am I going into a film where you want me to feel sympathy for the villain that we know who's going to become the villain? And it just threw me off. And then it kind of had like a switch where Gwendola was somewhat of the villain early on in this film. And so the first 30 minutes of it, I kind of was checking out of it. I was reaching for my phone, getting ready to play Candy Crush or something. And I was like, this is not going to work for me. Then I knew going in once again that this was a 2.5 hour film. 2.5 hours. I was like, man, what did I get myself into? But little bit by little bit, I was starting to enjoy. It was parts where I was like, okay, that was an interesting take. Okay, I'm liking the acting here. That song was a little sneaky little bop there, So I got into it. An hour into this film, I was completely invested. This film shocked me on how good it is. Everything, everything, the set design, the songs, the dance numbers, the acting, it was done beautifully. This was like watching a stage play in 4D, which you can make the argument that all stage plays are 4D, but you get where I'm trying to see, where I'm getting at here. But this was really phenomenal, and I must say there were points in this film where I got a little choked up. There was some emotion coming out of this grumpy old man. I was like, oh, that was touching. That I was really moved by what was being displayed on the big screen. I am shocked. I am shocked. And I guess because I went into this so negative, I went into this expecting a dumpster fire of a movie. I'm like, well, they split this movie in two. This was a mistake. I mean, all the stuff. I was like, oh, bro, Universal Pictures are really gonna be mad because that part two is not gonna happen because part one's gonna be so bad and all this here. It's something like Horizon. You know that movie that came out with Kevin Costner earlier this year, and nobody went and saw it, but he made 3 sequels, and now Warner Brothers don't know what to do with the other films because the first one didn't perform. I'm thinking that's what was going to happen here. I'm like, why did they split this in two? Well, obviously they had to because part one was 2 hours and 30 minutes. Let me get into the acting here. With our 2 lead performers in particular, Cynthia Erivo, who I've seen in countless things throughout her career. I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's a powerful actress, and I always wondered why she doesn't pop up more in things. You know, she's real selective in what she does, and I get it. First time I saw her was in Bad Times at the El Royale or something like that with Chris Hemsworth. That was a sneaky good movie. I think it gets poo-pooed on a lot, but it was really good in my opinion. I actually loved that movie. She was in it and played a major role. You can argue she's the lead in that film and does a phenomenal job in that movie. She was in this HBO show that I watched, The Outsiders. She was great in that. I mean, she's a really good actress. Plus, she's an Academy Award nominated actress for playing Harriet Tubman a couple of years ago. I've yet to see that movie. I've always said I'm gonna go back and watch it. I never went back and watched it, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch it eventually because with Cynthia Erivo in that role, I really got to see it. But her as Elphaba, as the quote unquote Wicked Witch of the West here, knocked it out the park. Knocked it out the park. The mere fact that she has to play this role, and this is non-spoiler. I'm not going to get into spoilers. I don't even know what I can spoil, to be honest with you. We all know what's going to happen at the end of it all. Actually, this movie does that. That's one slight spoiler. This movie it comes on like that. I mean, come on. Who hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz? So we know what happens to the Wicked Witch of the West. It's not a shocker. You're not going to go in here and be like, oh my God. Come on. Everybody knows. So to go into this role and bring something new, not just the mustache twirling or the wand twirling, I should say, villain in this film. She had depth because she wasn't just a sympathetic character. You can see where she can be a villain. They did a good job of showing that she can easily turn villainous at the snap of a finger, but she does have a heart. She does have empathy. She does have all of these emotions that any good red-blooded person has, and it was a phenomenal job by her to really display that emotion throughout this film. And plus her singing voice is so powerful. That song at the end, I think it's Defy Gravity is the name of it. Man, that's where I got. That's one of the two times I got emotional. Actually, at the end, a tear actually did go down my cheek. I had to sneak and hurry up and wipe it off. It was so powerful. That song and the way she belted out those notes. I was like, "Oh, go ahead, girl, get it, girl." I was all in it. Green girl magic. She was all in. I loved her. But one of the many reasons that I was kind of hesitant of this film to add on to the list that I stated earlier was Ariana Grande. Not that I hate her, and not that I think she's a bad actress. I didn't think she could handle something like this. Never seen her in nothing this expansive. And boy, was I wrong. Boy, she almost stole this movie. She almost stole it from from Cynthia Erivo. She almost stole. They pretty much was on par. I'll do that much. Ariana Grande was amazing. She was funny. She was sympathetic. There's a scene in here where her character kind of has a switch, and you know, trying to tiptoe around it without spoiling. But it's a scene where she does a switch, and it was done so well. That was the other time that I got emotional. And so it was done so well, and she did it so well. And the scene when she meets this, I don't know, was he a prince or something? I forgot what he is. But anyways, and she was trying to flirt with him and woo him, and the stuff that she was doing was so funny. I mean, I actually laughed out loud, which is a which is something hard for me to do in a theater or watching a film. Out loud laughing, I'll chuckle under my breath or something. Like this had me laughing out loud. She nailed those comedic beats perfectly, and I was completely surprised by her performance. Michelle Yeoh is in this movie as well, or should I say Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh. She has a role in this film that she was all right. She was the one character that I felt was kind of, I'm not going to say useless, but I don't know if it was necessarily needed as the way the story played out. Now, I'm saying all this, and we're getting a part 2 next year. So all that could be flushed out in part 2. So I'm kind of hesitant on making bold statements like that. But as far as this film is concerned, it just didn't feel needed. Even though she wasn't bad in it, it was just, as far as the story, it wasn't necessary for that character. Jeff Goldblum, look, Jeff Goldblum needs to be protected at all costs. He is a national treasure. You hear what I'm trying to tell you? This dude just brings a certain, what's the word? Gravitas to whatever he's a part of. I don't care if it's in Thor, Love and Thunder, not Love and Thunder. What was the one he was in? Ragnarok. If he's in Thor, if he's in The Fly, if he's in Jurassic Park, if he's in that show that was on Netflix, Chaos, if he's on that documentary show that was on Disney Plus a couple of years ago, I don't care what he's a part of. Jeff Goldblum is just amazing. And him as the wizard, he was born for this, and he killed it in that little supporting role that he has. Can't wait for part 2 to see that role kind of expand. This goes to show you how much I enjoyed this film. I'm looking forward to part 2. I am so mad when to be continued flashed on the screen at the end. Now I was hot. I was hot. I'm not gonna lie, but this was an amazing cast. Loved it. The direction here by John Child. Look, I really was kind of worried on how they were going to get this. Now, I knew nothing of Wicked on stage. My wife went to go see it on Broadway when she took a trip with a friend to New York. So she has knowledge of it. I didn't watch Wicked. I knew nothing of Wicked. Like I said before, not the biggest Wizard of Oz stan. I'm not running to see anything concerning the Wizard of Oz. I guess I got burnt by Oz the Great and Powerful a few years back. That movie was so bad. I just couldn't. I was done. But this film was directed so well by the choreography with the dancing and the singing and the acting. It hit the tone perfectly when you needed those comedic beats, when you needed those serious beats, the dramatic beats, the action beats. It was perfectly done. Great job by John Chow. The production design was beautiful. The use of colors and the set designs were just perfectly on point with me. I am super excited moving forward. I am super duper excited to see what's next. And it really, at the end of this, even though we all know what happens in The Wizard of Oz, we all know how this is going to turn out. And for millions of people who actually watch the stage play, they know. But for some strange reason, I'm on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's next. That's how good of a job they did on this film. Wicked, which was released in theaters this past Friday, gets a letter grade of an A. Yes, I'm as shocked as you. I was fully expecting not to like this movie. I wasn't even in a rush to go see it. It just so happened that, that I had 2.5 hours to spare. And it was 2.5 hours worth the sitting. I am so happy with this film. I'm seriously, you will walk out of this movie feeling good. Feeling like you've actually been a part of something. That it was actually a communal experience when you see it with a crowd or something like that. It is that good of a film. Kudos to all the filmmakers, everybody involved with this project. Can't wait for part 2. But I would love to know, are you a fan of Wicked? Did you check out this film? Are you excited for part 2? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Like this video if you don't mind. While you're in the liking mood, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Wicked Part 1. You all have a happy Thanksgiving. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.